I manifested things to a T. Like I scripted things with like specific dates, specific people, specific everything, and I made it happen. And this is what worked for me. And I'm saying this because I feel like a lot of people, when they watch manifestation videos, and I used to be one of those people too, if I see one person that I follow that I really truly like admire, and I see how they manifest, and I see someone else contradicting their information, I'm like, wait, but which one of them is true? Like what's the right method? Because this person says this method is right and this person says this other method is better and this and that. There is no better or worse method. It's just like what works for you and what feels good to you. So just keep that in mind. Why am I saying this? Because the girl in the comment who was asking me this was saying like, well, I heard in other videos that you're supposed to script something or write something in your manifestation journal and not look at it again. But I think some people and sometimes this has worked for me and sometimes the complete opposite has worked for me as well. It's just like you deciding that it works for you and that it feels good for you. Why am I saying this? There's two ways that I think that you can use scripting, and I'm gonna explain the first one with like a specific situation that I had happen with the examples and everything, and another way where I did not. I will explain the way that I wrote it and like looked at it every day and I made it happen, and another one where I just like wrote it, forgot about it, and it had it happen anyway. Just for you to know that this works either way. And it also depends on you. Why did I do it differently in two specific occasions? First time that I scripted something, this was actually the first time I ever tried scripting in my life. And it was at a point of my life where I had just come back from a trip to Bali. I had met this guy in Bali that I really wanted to go see in LA because we were like still texting and all of that, and I wanted to just like meet him and like spend time with him and blah blah blah. I had used up all my vacations for Bali, so I could technically not travel. And talking with him, I remember him saying something about like, well, in August it's like the time in the year where I'm like more free, this and that. So in my mind I was just like, okay, in August I'm going to LA, and we're talking that this was like May, so like 3-4 months before that. And I was like, how are you supposed to like get 2 weeks of vacation for like in 3 months when you have like got all the vacations for the year? Like that's literally impossible. Even if you do like all the overtime in the world, you're not gonna be able to get 2 weeks of vacation for that. But in that moment I was just like, you know what, this is what I want and I'm gonna freaking make it happen, okay? No doubt about that. So what did I do? I got a manifestation journal, well, I got a journal, and what I did in that journal is like I wrote out the situation that I wanted to be in August of that year, and like not a specific date like the 15th of August or something, just like somewhere in the middle of August. And I just wrote out a page. I wish I had it here just so I could read it to you. It might be somewhere in my journals, but I don't know in which of my journals. I have plenty of them. I wrote out a page of like how I would feel having all of that, how I would feel having that situation. So what I did was, I feel so grateful that I'm here with him in his house, blah blah blah, spending time with him. I am so happy I managed to like get a vacation to go visit him, that I'm traveling to LA, and all of these different things, okay? I just wrote out all of that with like feeling statements written in the present moment, yada yada. And some people say like you should not, like you should usually like write this once and forget about it. But the thing is, in order to reprogram my mind, or in order for me to like feel that vibration of me having that, every day, what I decided to do is like every morning I would wake up and the first thing that I would do is like get that page of the journal, read it out loud, and just feel that, and just feel myself in that desired state and like that end goal that I wanted. Because reading that every morning put me in such a good mood, because I hated my job back then, okay? I was working like customer service at a bank, which is like the worst job ever. And like for me, going to work every day in a job that I hated, in an apartment that wasn't the best, a lot of things that I didn't want, me kind of like transporting my mind into this place that I really wanted to be in, that I was so happy to be in, helped me see like, okay, everything that's gonna happen today is gonna lead me to this. And I'm gonna go out to the world with like a good mood, like good attitude, which is gonna attract the way or the opportunity for me to actually go there, if that makes sense. So that meant that every day I was leaving my house with like, even if I woke up like in the wrong side of the bed or something, I ended up reading that sometimes twice a day. Like sometimes I would read it in the morning and at night if I had like a weird or a bad day. And that would just like instantly put me in a good mood, because I just like felt myself in it. I just felt everything that I had written. I would just like feel like I was there with him and like traveling and all of these things. So what happened next? I was in a really good mood after I wrote this. Like I wrote this like one day, and like the next week I was just like in a super good mood. Like I would go to the office, be super nice to everyone, this and this and that. And having like reading this every day also put me in the place of like every time people asked me things, I would assume that I was going there. And I remember this one colleague from work actually was going to LA in August, and she was like looking at prices to like rent a car, whatever, and she was talking about it one day, and I remember telling, like I was like, oh, when are you going to LA? And she's like, oh, in August. I was like, oh, me too. And I remember my boss like turned around and looked at me being like, no, you're not. This was still like beginning of May or something. And he was like, but you don't have any vacations left. And I was like, yeah, no, but I'm gonna go. And he just like laughed and just turned around and just continued to work, thinking like, this girl's crazy. I mean, at work they already knew that I was kind of like the witchy one, so they would just like ignore me. But I also, like, the fact that I read this every morning just put me in this really good state of like, this is happening, so like I don't care. So I just started acting as if it was happening. That was it. That weekend, after I started all of this, a friend of mine is like, oh, Ada, I have this yoga influencer teacher who's coming to Barcelona. She's from LA. She wants a photo shoot, blah, blah, blah. So I met up with that girl, did a photo shoot with her. We had a really good like connection and breakfast afterwards, and like we kept in touch. And while we were at breakfast, she was like, oh, what are your plans for the year? Like, what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I told her like, well, and in August, I have the plan to go to LA, this and this and that. And she was like, oh, actually, I'm going to be in LA in August, and I'm actually like looking for someone who can just like help me as like my personal assistant. So like if you're around and like you probably are going to like see someone. I told her about the boy situation and everything, and she's like, well, if you're going to visit your friend, just go stay with him for a week, and maybe you can come stay with me the other week, and just like I can pay for everything for you and you can just work for me then. And I was like, oh, that's actually really nice, blah blah blah. So we already like kept in touch, because the moment she saw that I was potentially going to LA, when I wasn't even sure, well, I was sure, but not really, that I was going, I was just like, okay, fine. So she gave me her contact and we stayed in touch. And I remember that a few days later, I was doing like yoga influencing in Barcelona, even though my account was like not the biggest one. There were like a few brands that I sometimes like they would give me clothes, so I would go shoot pictures with them, whatever. And then this one brand just reached out to me being like, hey, do you want to come to the office to try out like our new collection so you can shoot some pictures, blah, blah, blah. And I went there with the idea of like just getting some clothes, trying them on, blah, blah, blah. And I was talking to the CEO of the company, because the company is like 5 people big. So I was talking to the CEO, and while we were talking, he saw the pictures that I've done with this woman a few days ago, and he's like, oh, your photography is really nice. What do you do for work? And I told him like, well, work at customer service in this place, but I'm actually like a social media manager, photographer, a content creator, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, oh, we're actually looking for someone who would do all of these things, and you're actually like an expert in the yoga industry and this and this and that. And like that thing that was supposed to be like a 5-minute meeting turned into like a job interview. And he actually ended up offering me like double the money I was making at the bank to work for them, and which was like already something that I was manifesting, like I make more money, I want to have money to go to LA and all of those things. So he offers me a job to go work for them, and he's like, well, I would need you to start like next week, because we just like fired the other one because she was kind of a disaster. So I kind of like quit my job at the bank from like one day to the next. And then I was like, oh, then I started with this company, I think beginning of June, if I'm not, yeah, that was the first week of June. But then I was like, okay, August is like 2 months away. I cannot ask for vacation like so early in the job. That would be like weird. But then I thought this, but I was like, Ada, you're gonna go to LA, just stop worrying about this. You're gonna go to LA. I kept on reading my manifestation journal every morning. So, and a week after thinking this, my boss comes in the office this one morning in like mid-June or something like that, when I had been there for like 2 weeks. He was like, oh, by the way, you know that how in Barcelona like August is kind of like a dead month, so many people are not here. I might go to Turkey to the factory, blah blah blah. So just like all of you like take 2 weeks off in August, specifically mid-August, which is what I had planned in my head to do, to visit in LA. So in that moment I was like, okay, I got my first paycheck, which gives me a lot of money to actually like buy the ticket and everything, and I am not going to be in debt for this. And I also just got the opportunity to do this, and I just texted the guy being like, hey, I have 2 weeks in August. He was like, cool, you can come stay with me for a week. Texted the other yogi influencer, she's like, cool, you can stay with me another week. So I just went to LA for 2 weeks, and everything just happened so easily that I'm like, when I think about this story, sometimes I get like goosebumps because I'm like, I still get chills from this story because it feels like it didn't happen to me, because it's crazy how it happened. And this was like one of the ways, and this is why I wanted to explain this story, just to like show you how, like, for me, reading my story or my scripting every morning really helped. And I wanted to explain this story just to show you that reading something every day, or like, it doesn't have to be every day, it can be like every other day or something, it's not a bad thing, and it doesn't mean that you're not gonna manifest it. It depends on like the how or the why you do something. You know what I mean? Like, you can write something and forget that it's there, and maybe in a few months you just find that notebook again and you read it, and the fact that you read it doesn't mean that you're not gonna manifest it. Like, and you need to stop thinking that, because the thing is, if you think that you're not gonna manifest it because you read it again or because you thought of it again, it's because you believe that. You have to remember that it's like the power that your beliefs hold is the most important thing. Because I'm also the kind of person who would always think that, okay, in order to manifest something, you have to think about it once and not think about it ever again. And if you think about it again, it means that you're not manifesting it, or you're just like starting over and it's gonna take more time. All of that are your beliefs. It's not actually true, you know? So it's like, let's say like you want to manifest your perfect relationship. You're gonna think about it maybe now, and maybe in 3 weeks you remember that, because you're human and you're gonna remember things, as well as you remember like bad things or this or this or that. That doesn't mean that it's not gonna manifest. That doesn't mean that you're resetting the timeline of your manifestation. You're just thinking about that. It's how you think about that that affects the manifestation, you know? So if you're just like, you decide to manifest a partner today, and in a few weeks or in a few months or something, you just like, oh, remember that I wrote this list about this person. You just need to like feel good about it in that moment. Just like remember it in a positive way, being like, oh yes, because they're gonna be this and this and that, and kind of like maybe go through your manifestation, feel good about it. And that's just gonna put you in the vibration of it. So it's not a bad thing to kind of like reread through things or like go, you know, it's just, the only thing that's important is that you don't obsess over it, that you read it every morning just to think that it's gonna come quicker, because it's not the fact that you go over it like as many times as possible. It's just like that you are in a receiving vibration as much as possible, and it's gonna come whenever the universe decides it's meant to come for you, you know? Because this is one thing. And then there's been like a lot of other times where I've just like, I don't know, for example, when the year starts, I usually like write my goals for the year, like the manifestations for the year, and I usually don't check that list until like the end of the year or something like that. Sometimes I will look into it like at the middle of the year, be like, oh, let's see if I actually still want these things, because sometimes I don't really want them, and I will go through the list and be like, oh, actually this came true or this didn't come true. So there's no right or wrong way to do it. I think it's actually more beneficial if you have your list somewhere where you can see it, because every time that you look at it, if you do it from like a positive point of view, it's just like a reminder for you to be like, oh my god, it's gonna be so cool when I actually manifest these things. But also, it's also cool to be where you are right now. You know what I mean? Just like finding the balance there, which I know is hard, because if you don't have the perfect relationship right now, or if you don't have the perfect job, or if you're not there yet, sometimes it can be a bit hard. But something, if you imagine, for example, taking the example with the relationship, that one day you're gonna be with your partner and they're gonna be loving, you're gonna live together and do everything together. Think about how in that moment you're gonna look back on where you are now, and you're still gonna miss being single, doing things with your friends, having your own living space and all of those things. Because you know that even if you now think about like the worst situation in your life, like high school, for example, if you had a bad experience, you're still gonna see things in high school that you miss now that you're like, oh my god, like I had so much fun, like seeing my friends every day, or this or this or that. Even in the worst cases, you're still gonna miss things from that past situation that seemed bad in the moment. So even though right now you might not be in the place that you want to be, you're here for a reason, and you're gonna miss this place in some years. So like, try to make the most out of it, or try to think from the version of you that's like there with the relationship, with the house, with the job, whatever it is, so that you can enjoy these things and you can feel grateful for these things, because that's just gonna make the process so much easier and faster. And I've been talking for so long in this video, and I feel like I haven't said anything, but I just like really like sharing my examples, because it helps me when I watch other YouTubers to like see their examples, because it makes me trust them, whatever. So basically, like what I had in my manifestation journal is, and you just write whatever the fuck you want. You don't have to write in it every day. You can write in it every day. I've seen people who usually like write their affirmations every day, or they write the scripting that they've done like every day to just like make it more powerful. What I did was just like reading it every day. I've also done the thing where I just like rewritten it every day with something else, And I don't think that made sense because it just got my hand tired, and that just was not a positive association I had with it. So for me, that's not something that I like. I do like writing my gratitude, my affirmations and things like that, maybe every day or every 2 days. But I feel like with scripting, for me, it's just been like feeling statements of like, I feel grateful to have this, I feel amazing to be here, I love being with this person, just how I feel with that situation, and just describe it the way that makes me imagine it in the best possible way. And just describe it in a way that makes me imagine it like as vividly as possible. It doesn't need to be super detailed if you don't need that. It can be super detailed if that helps you. Not something that helps me, but maybe it is good for you. But honestly, there's no rules. I know this probably is not what you wanted to hear, but there are no specific rules for this. You like if you, for example, take my now manifestation journal, which is super cute. I got this in Sri Lanka. It's just like a school notebook. It's super cute. It even says kids somewhere here. And you can look into it and you'll see that here I have like, whoops, and here I have like gratitude thingies, you know, and then on another page, no, this is also gratitude. And here I'm like, I have a little scripting text that I don't know, sometimes it's just like, I might be at a I might be at a cafe or something like that, and I just really feel like, oh, this is something that I want, or this is how I'm feeling, this is how I want to feel, and I just write snippets that I completely forget that they're gonna be there, and I just never really read them again. And maybe a few years later I will come back, find this notebook, open it and be like, oh, this actually manifested, because it's things that don't really bother me that much. It's things that I want to manifest, but I don't really care as much, which is probably the best way to go about it. Here, for example, I have a things to happen list. So here I did put a few things that I'm like, okay, these are the things that I want to manifest, and I will just randomly write the most, like, my manifestation like notebooks don't make sense. They're just a way for me to have fun. At the end of the day, I feel like you have to have fun with this. You need to see this, you need to see life as a joke, you need to see manifestation as a joke. You need to not take everything so seriously and just like have fun with it and enjoy the process. So I feel like there's not, like, some people may tell you like you need to write in your manifestation journal every day and this and this and that. I don't think it should be like that, because maybe some weeks you're gonna be manifesting like a lot of things. Maybe some moments you're like, I actually don't know what I want to manifest in my life right now. So like, why? You don't need to be manifesting anything, you know? So I hope this video was helpful. If you have any other questions, please drop them down below. If you want me to make any specific video on something else, let me know, and I'll see you guys next week.